Good morning. Welcome to episode 38 or 36.
38.
Sorry, to the Blindsided podcast. Today we're talking about the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. And basically, there's a price we all pay. And what price is that? That we want to pay and we want to put our time and invest into. So we're just going to talk about how the pain of discipline eases, but the pain of regret, if we don't focus on the change we might need to make in our lives, the regret kind of grows, percolates and grows regardless of what we do. My name is Charlie Collins, co-host of the Blindsided podcast. And today with me is...
Hi, everybody. My name is Brenda Hayden. Good morning, Charlie. I like this little hand coming out right from the back of my head. I love that. I'm perfectly aligned. I am the co-founder of TimeFor10.com. We're an emotional awareness coaching service. There's a group of us out there doing this. And we help people challenge their conditioned thinking, their 0 to 7 programming, so they can get at the root cause of why they get triggered and upset over things that really are not that big of a deal most of the time. And they have a more fruitful, calm, relaxing, peaceful life and more freedom. So I'm excited to be here today. And I'm the co-host of this wonderful podcast. We have done so much in the last 37 episodes. It has been transformative work.
We really
Thank
have.
you, Charlie.
Absolutely. So let's break this down a little so we can understand. Have you ever taken time to really sit in a spot and think about, am I where I want to be in life? Okay, maybe not everything, but am I mentally, spiritually, and physically? That's kind of everything. Where I want to be in life. And am I connected relationship wise? And am I reaching out? And am I with my friends and family and people? Am I seeking out new relationships and things that will just help rise my level and connections? Do I feel connected to nature and outside and the ground and breathing air and the sun? And am I really do I have the energy I want to have? Do I feel good inside my body? And am I accepting of the way it is in this time of my life, knowing I can do something to change a little? And that's really because if those things are percolating, like I'm not connected as well as I want to be relationally, I definitely don't get outside enough. I'm not taking care of that part of my life. And I am, I'm a little tired, whatever the physical part of your life, that stuff just percolates. It keeps growing without our consciousness really even noticing. So we want to bring in we all pay a price, right? Every day and each and every day, there's a price to pay to live life. And I like to think of it as a discipline is hard. It's the word alone is like, I don't like it. It's like, I'm not going into so discipline in the beginning, it involves change. It involves quite a bit of things, but practiced over and over, you can start to change that programming. And discipline, the pain of discipline isn't a pain anymore. It becomes easier and easier as we continue down that path. But the pain of regret, that'll grow. And near the end of our lives, when we're sitting around thinking, man, I missed the mark on so many things. I wish I spent more time in the office. I wish I, stayed alone more. No, nobody says that. So got any thoughts on this, Brenda?
Oh, so many thoughts are running through my brain right now. So many, Charlie. I don't even know where to begin on this. So I love the way that you summarize discipline and regret. And you're right. When people think of discipline, most people anyway, and when I think of discipline, what comes to my mind is hard work. And I'm already working hard enough. I don't need something else on my plate to have to do. But that's really not what discipline is about. And I think we'll get into that, what discipline really means in more detail in a few minutes. But I want to, what really struck me when you were talking about this was that, myself included, there was a point in time in my life where I believed I was disciplined. I believed I was disciplined because I was getting up and going to work every day. I was taking care of my family financially. My house was clean. I had the right car. I had the right clothes. I had the right education. I had all the boxes checked off. And I was living my life in a way that society defined as discipline. I was doing all the things on a regular basis that I was supposed to be doing to be a good mom and a good worker and a good person. But that's really not what discipline is about, because I know today from doing a whole lot of work that I was asleep to really the whole world that lives inside of me, the connection with things like a higher power, true connection with other people. I was asleep to those things because I was disciplining myself so rigidly in this routine and identifying that as success, because that's what I was told to do. It's like living in the matrix, right? We've talked about this before. These are all the things I'm supposed to do to be a successful person. And I fell into that trap. I interpreted that as discipline, right? And then I got comfortable in that routine because it felt safe, right? It felt safe. So I think when it comes to this topic about discipline and regret, I think we have to start with, well, if I don't even know I'm asleep, how do I awaken, Charlie? How do I awaken to, oh my gosh, I'm not taking care of my spirit because I'm not spending any time in nature. I'm not praying or meditating. So I'm not taking care of that inner world that connects to so many incredible things that will change your life, that will awaken you to true joy and happiness. So how do I even recognize that I'm asleep? Because I'm in my disciplined routine that the society says makes me successful.
Oh, yeah, that's good. And as Henry David Thoreau had a quote, and this was back before they know brain imaging and the body and how they, the science they know now. And it was, people are living lives of quiet desperation.
Yes.
And that's what you just told me. I feel like I've checked all the box, but darn it, something is still missing. Let me go seek more.
Yes.
And more, and I, this is me too. I was seeking more. More will fix that void. And that void was, I was not relationally, I wasn't connected the way I am now to people. True caring, unconditional. How can I serve? What's up? And that wasn't there. I was connected and I was nice to people, and but it was about me mostly, and I was not connected to the universe, to God, to a spiritual power, and it was really just the power within me wasn't connected, and once that happened, so you ask how do I wake up to? Well, do you find yourself resentful ever? Are you ever complaining, blaming, rationalizing, justifying, defending why your life is the way it is, or making excuses? That's a good clue. That's a big shine of light on this. That means you're heading in the big time regret column of life. And when our good friend Mickey died, right?
Oh, I miss him.
Oh, so do I. So when I went in to see him when he was near the end, and he had a little piece of paper and a pen, and he's scratching his head. And I said, what are you doing? I'm just making sure there's nothing I've left on the table. There's no amends I need to make. There's no person I need to touch base with. There's nothing I have left on my thing before I pass. And I'm like, folding back like, holy crap.
Yep.
That's called peace. That is where I want to be near my end. Knowing that, I said, what's on the list? He said, nothing yet. I said, well, I think you better put my name on there. He said, shut up. Him and I had the coolest relationship. And then the next time I went to see him was even closer. And he pulled something out of his pocket and put it in my hand, Brenda. And I said, what's this? And it was his AA. Whoops. Am I allowed to say that? Doesn't matter.
Yeah. You can.
Yeah. And it was he goes, I want you to have this. It was his 35-year coin. He had just achieved that. And he passed with that many years clean and sober. And he gave it to me. And I said, oh, good. Does this mean I have 35 years? No.
Hey, go ahead, Charlie, finish. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying that man was a power of what it means to die with zero regret.
Yeah. Yeah. You got me all choked up here. Last thing he said to me, and then I see Sue Pepper's here, so we're going to let her in. The last thing he said to me was, I love you so much. I love you so much. He's a great man.
Hold on.
Yes, we have Sue Pepper here as a guest today. So excited. Sue.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Had some technical difficulties, so I'm glad I got to finally be here.
So are we.
So, Charlie, why don't you fill in Sue on what we've talked about so far, so she can add, jump in and add her thoughts on our intro to discipline and regret.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pain we all pay, a price we all pay in life, Sue, right? And that price is it going to be the pain of discipline or the pain of regret? And regret grows and percolates in our lives. I just shared the story of our great friend Mickey, how he died with not one regret, not one resentment, nothing. He was clean. He was clear. He was connected, and he died peacefully and left an amazing legacy. Yeah. So I like to ask when I work with people, what type of legacy do you want to live? Do you want to leave a legacy that you wish you were in the office more, that you had a bigger boat and that, you had a faster car? Or do you want that I had a lot of people I loved? I was connected to the universe. I felt wonderful outside and I loved myself the way I am.
Wow. Yeah, powerful words there. You guys, let me know when you jump in.
Jump in.
Jump in.
I love that. First of all, Mickey, what an amazing guy, and I love getting to meet people who have figured all of this out. What an inspiration. One of the things that got me started on my spiritual journey is I was 40 and I met a woman who was easily in her 80s, not sure how old she was, in a wheelchair. And what I didn't know at the time is she was 6 months away from dying. And she was so present. She was so interested in the world. She was so engaged. And I remember thinking, wow, I am more of a crotchety old lady than this woman is. And she's like twice my age. She was a real inspiration for me. And she passed away 6 months later, and I never got the chance to tell her that. So for me, it's like I remember thinking at the time, I want to be like her. And I didn't know how to at the time. And that's what I love about the work that we do, is giving people a path to get away from that overwhelming, that pain you talked about. And I'm going to use other words. For me, guilt and shame. I had so much guilt and shame because I knew inside myself that I was not being the person that I wanted to be. Who cares what anybody else thinks? I wasn't being the person I wanted to be. And I had so much, guilt and shame that had built up inside of me. And I don't know about other people, but for me, whenever I had those kind of feelings going on inside of me, I would blast it out to the world. And I blasted it out as anger. And that just made it worse, because then I was blasting people that I love, or blasting people that I didn't even know and surely didn't deserve it. And it became this dark spiral.
Brenda, have you ever had any guilt and shame as a product of regret?
Me? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that happens and because we were talking about being a sleep suit, like how do you even know that you're not, because that you're not living your fullest life, that you're not, how do you know you're not nurturing your spirit, mind, and body when you have this societal structure that says, okay, so go to college and get this degree and then make this amount of money and drive this kind of car and live in this kind of house and your kids have to go to this kind of school, right? So we have all these outside structures that we've been taught since we were small children is the way to really show the world that you're disciplined and successful and you don't even know you're asleep. And one of the things that happened for me, and guilt and shame ensues inside because you're not your authentic self. You're being something that society has told you you're supposed to be, right? And then you do it all and you're like, oh my God, I'm miserable. And then, guilt and shame. So what I did initially was I drank and drugged it away, and then when I got sober, I was eating it away. And then, when I decided I didn't want to be, my body started to change. I'm like, oh, I can't afford to be heavy. That's not going to work in my, in my structure that I've been told. So now I'm going to, run marathons. I'm going to exercise it away. There was always something from the outside that I latched onto to try and fix what was not working on the inside, when really all I needed to do was to have somebody teach me how to go in and get to know myself spiritually, get to know that authentic self, that spark of the divine that lives within me, to connect with that. And when I started connecting with that, then I could start authentically connecting with other people. And then I started to awaken and say, holy, you know what? I've missed the mark. I've missed it all.
Holy shit. So what I'm hearing is where we sit is how we see, and how we see determines what we do.
Mm.
And what I'm saying is where I sat in my mind was more, was make more, get more, be more, but not really, but do more, really, so you see me as more. And that was how I saw. So that's where I sat. And because of that, that's all I could see from that mind. I saw the world as I am, not as it is, and where my could fit into it. I'm building regrets and things, but I'll buy them out of, I'll buy a bigger boat and that they'll all go away. And which determined what I do. And as we always talk about in here, and what we do creates an experience. And when we have an experience determines, gives us a feeling, an emotion. And that emotion usually triggers the next. This is how I am. This is where I sit. Where I sit is how I see, and how I see determines what I do. And if you're, it's like changing the seats on the Titanic. It's like, wake up. And I'm not talking to you, viewer. I'm talking to me. Somebody sat with me and when I was down and out, and he was trying to show me where I sit is how I see, and how I see is what I'm doing. And it doesn't need to be this way. You're going to lose your family, your the business. And he laid out all the things that I would have just had such deep regret and shame and remorse and guilt, that he could see it, but I couldn't hear him. All I could think was, you don't understand. My life sucks, and I have to live this way to feed whatever in me is not connected to what is going to solve what's going on with me.
I love that. Yeah. I think both of you kind of,
So
implied
your
that
audio is very low.
very low. Okay. How about if I just get closer?
Yeah, whatever it
Okay,
takes.
we'll do that. All right. So, yeah, no, I think you both implied that, when we just continue to, try and work for some outside thing. Brenda, you talked about achievement. Boy, that was a big one for me. Or you talk about stuff, Charlie. Let me buy another something, fill in the blank, right? And for me, what ended up happening is I had a deep, dark hole. deep inside of me, that hole of not liking me, of wanting something more, and not knowing what. And I was trying to fill it. And I'm like you guys, just the same thing. Try to fill it with, whatever drug was working for me. For me, I did a lot of achievement, a lot of control, a lot of trying to look a certain way, and certainly stuff, lots of stuff. And all of those things, there was no filling that hole. And the weird thing is that, when we start doing work on ourselves, it feels really hard. It's like, oh God, oh, I don't want to, go inward and look at myself. I don't want to, go inward, and because I've been trying to avoid that. I don't want to see that deep, dark stuff. Really didn't like me, and I was trying to cover it. And so to stop and to look at it felt like, oh God, this is terrible. This is awful. And I remember balking at the beginning. I remember it was December when I first started doing spiritual work and started looking at myself with the help of somebody else. And I was planning for Christmas, and I was like, you know what? I'll do it all next month. Right now, I've got to buy presents, stuff. I've got to clean the house. I've got to cook. I've got to prepare for guests, and I thought all of these things were going to give us a beautiful, lovely Christmas. Yeah. Well, Christmas Day, I don't know what happened, but I just couldn't take it anymore. And all of a sudden, I lost it. And I was just emotionally yelling and screaming. I was angry. And it wasn't even at other people. And I remember being in that moment of just emotionally, you know, in its terrible place. And I remember thinking, I don't know how to get out of this. And I do remember thinking, wow, all of this that I thought I was doing to make a perfect Christmas, and then I just destroyed it. And that was when I said, okay, I really got to do this work. And that's when I stopped balking and really started looking at myself. And yeah, it was hard at first, but it was way better than what I had just experienced.
Mm-hmm. So you had your aha moment at that time, right? I think we've all experienced that aha moment, that hitting bottom, whether it's emotionally or physically or financially, and we realize what we're doing doesn't work. Charlie and I were talking about how you could easily get misled into believing that you're disciplined and that you don't have regrets, because there's safety in routine. There's safety in getting up every day and doing what you know. There's safety in that. And with the outside world, the education system, the riots, the wars, the healthcare system, all of these things, the financial systems, all of these things are failing, right? And they've been failing, and people are frightened. Right. So the last thing they want to do is change something that is working for them in their mind. Right. And a lot of people I know that I work with make decisions based on finances before they make decisions based on their well-being, or even the spiritual or emotional well-being of their family, myself included. Like, I'm never home, but I'm doing, this is going to get me somewhere that I want to be. When really the answer is to balance that and nurture all three parts of my spirit, mind, and body, which means that I may not be perfect at some of the other things that I'm doing. Like, and to sit, you talked about being uncomfortable. So instead of getting an A in one of my classes, I get a B, right? But now that frees up 10 hours of time. Instead of working 4 hours on a video, Charlie and I were talking about this last week, now we only work an hour on a video. So I had to shift my thinking into balancing and understanding what's important. And it was uncomfortable to do that in the beginning, to the point where, like, I would have a physical somatic reaction. I'd get nauseous. Well, I can't put that out there. I only worked an hour on it. It's not perfect in this one. It doesn't matter. So I started doing it. I sat with the discomfort, Sue, and you were talking about that, how like, it feels so icky to be in that place of the unknown, that unknown terrain of not defining my worth by what I used to be defining my worth on. The money, the achievement, all of those things that made me feel I had worth. And saying, you know what? My worth is defined by me and God. That's it. Not by how many clicks I get on my video or whether a professor, thinks I should have had an A. They said it like, instead of it being not by my own, standard of I have to be this or do this to be worthy, to be okay, to have self-love. And so when I started sitting in that discomfort, and allowing myself to experience not achieving, canceling some appointments, not getting an A, and sit with that discomfort and experience it, what I learned was it's not all that bad. It really didn't matter. It was back here in the conditioned thinking that it mattered. It was an old tape that was running, an old script. It was childhood imprinting that I needed to unlearn. So my motto with that is unlearn, awaken, and align. Unlearn, awaken, and align.
I like it.
Me too. It's on my Soulbriety. I'm doing a Soulbriety room on the Soul app, and that's what it says: unwaken, unlearn, awaken, and align.
Yeah, I was like, wow, you changed it to unwaken.
No, I tripped up on my
I
word.
like that. That's the easier, softer way. That produces regret. And Sue and Brenda, what you guys are saying, it's so amazing. The discipline that I struggled with the most was my mind, was my thinking. The discipline of thinking. See, I then woke up to the fact that I am trying to make for a beautiful Christmas, but everybody has to fall in line because I already know how they all need to act and be and do and say how great that president is and like how great I am, even though I'm not thinking that, but it's in there. And I don't know this until I realized one of my failures was that I projected how the people around me needed to be and act and do. So I felt okay. I felt accepted and validated. And that, and I realized when I started paying attention and really got incredibly not so much disciplined or aware of, and then started stepping into, it's not as hard anymore. I'm not complaining about people constantly. I'm not self-seeking all the time, looking to find a way to make things better through others. Because if it's meant to be, it's up to me. No one shows up at my front door and says, trust me, today everybody's going to act the right way. Everything's going to be just right. And I'll find something. The crack in the sidewalk pissed me off, So I think this regret and discipline, what my focus was in the beginning wasn't so much my body. It was when I straighten out, as we know, when we straighten out, when the spiritual malady, what is a malady? It's a disconnect. From what? From the power we were born with to the universal, a God, a higher power. When that spiritual disconnect, that malady is overcome, then we can start worrying about the discipline of our mind and body. But to begin, I had to wake up the spirit in me that was earning to connect to the one around me, that was that love, grace, and beauty. And Brenda, you said one thing, and I just, if information that leads to revelation will then lead to transformation. And there's a lot of information out there, but when I sat in a podcast or the rooms, but let's say even conferences, and that leader was giving information, it was a revelation to me, is an aha moment. Like, what? I can do something about this. I have the power within me to choose the life I'm living. And then it led to transformation.
Oh gosh. Wow. There's a lot of powerful stuff here. I'm going to
I'm going to tack on to that whole awareness and unlearning thing. You know what was so amazing for me, and hopefully my sound is better now. I put in my earbuds, so. But the big thing that was so important for me at the beginning when I started doing this work was to become aware of what was going on inside of me. Um, I, I really, I, whew, man, I sought information for years and years and years, but I was always seeking outside information. And when I started doing spiritual work, the first thing we did was started paying attention to what was going on inside of me. And that awareness was huge because what I knew I was an angry person. But what I didn't know is that anger is a secondary emotion. And what was really going on underneath the anger was fear. And that I was full of fear. In fact, guilt and shame, both words for fear. Guilt, fear that I've done something wrong. Shame, fear that I'm wrong, I'm bad. So I had all of this fear going on and I was completely unaware of it. And so I was, the old Sue, the old groove, that I had learned over many, many years was, if I'm in fear about something that's going on, just like you said, Charlie, it could be anything. There's a crack in the sidewalk. I could trip on that crack. And then I would get angry. Who is supposed to be taking care of this sidewalk? And but it was so quick in my mind that I never knew that the fear was there. I went right to the anger. And so I was always focused on the outside solution was always out there. Somebody else needed to toe the line. Somebody else needed to get better at what they were doing because I'm angry about this and this is wrong. And I had all kinds of facts and information to back up why this was wrong. Man, I would make a really good argument for it. But what I started doing right off the bat when I started doing this work was recognizing that what started all of this was always my fear. What was I afraid of? And fixing the sidewalk, although it may mean that I'm not afraid that I have a tripping hazard on the sidewalk, doesn't take away the problem because my fears were universal. Fear that I was a horrible person. That's that pain we're talking about, that pain of that downward spiral, deep hole in my chest, was fear that I just was a terrible person or I wasn't good enough. But I had millions of fears. And that's why there was never going to be a solution that was going to fix them all. Fear that I wouldn't get enough, fear that I was going to die, fear that everybody I loved was going to die, fear that, the world was going to hell in a handbasket. It, the fear was what I needed to start paying attention to. So that awareness and then that unlearning of that jumping right from fear to anger and everybody else needs to change. I had to start learning a new path. And this was what was hard at the beginning because I didn't want to learn that new path. I kind of liked being angry, it felt powerful. And the new path I had to learn was that, oh, I'm full of fear. Let's deal with my fear. And my fear felt weak. And I didn't want to be a weak person. I wanted to be the powerful, screaming person that was telling everybody what to do. But it was destroying my life. And so learning how to be aware that I had fear and then unlearn that quick jump going from fear right to anger and screaming at other people. That was the hard work at the beginning.
Very, very hard work. So many good things, excuse me, have been said. And it's really resonating with me. The thing that comes into my awareness is, we're talking about the conditioned thinking and everything we've learned all happens up here, right? It all happens up here. And then we walk around with that program and we try and satisfy what we're, the brain is telling you, the amygdala, the subconscious is telling you, because that's all subconscious programming. It's not conscious programming, it's subconscious programming. When you're not paying attention, that program is running. That fear program you're talking about, it's running 24/7. And we are so busy, we're not paying attention. So it's running all the time. And it's running the show. And one of the biggest barriers for me to get into a spiritual mindset was it meant I had to go into my heart. I had to go into my heart and out of this box that I had relied on my entire life. And I was afraid of the emotion. I was afraid of what I was going to feel. Because like you said, Sue, like anger is a secondary emotion, but it did the job. It satisfied that itch. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to go in here and feel. Now let's talk for a minute about what happens when you go into your heart. And let's talk about this for a second, because I want to get back to the actual topic, right? I know, Charlie, I want to talk about regret. It is, if you think about manifestation and you think about prayer and you think about meditation, all of that happens in your heart. Everything that causes us to expand has to do with emotion. Not thinking. It has to do with feeling. It has to do with feeling. The entire body is a somatic system that it's an antenna, and it feels the information first through the 100 million neurons in your gut, the 41,000 neurons in your heart. And then it brings the information to your brain for application, for discernment, for decision making. So you're supposed to feel everything. That's the first thing you're supposed to do. And that's not what we're taught to do. We're taught to think about it first. So my biggest barrier was saying, okay, so now I have to rely on these feelings that I have been stuffing in a basket and shoving under the bed most of my life. This is where the growth is going to come from. And that was a big pill to swallow. But once I started doing it, oh my gosh, I go there with regularity for peace, for solace. I'm going to start to cry. It is my home. My heart is my home today. And I connect to the divine and the universe through that, not through this.
A little pause, a little quiet never hurts. Actually, a lot is what I need. So I got a Ferrari mind, and it's that red line, first gear, right, going throughout my day, and most of it was pointing fingers. It's not me. It's not me. I'm doing the best I can. Like you said, Brenda, I'm disciplined. I'm getting up. I'm going to work. I mean, yeah, people are stupid. Yeah, customers are irritating. Yeah, the phone rings too much, but I'm disciplined, baby. I'm here. So shut it and get your job done and make me money, because I need more. And gosh, talk about a crappy way to live life. And that was brought me right to, I couldn't find more within that. So I saw outside of that. And all along, it was already a part of who I was. I was born with it, but it was blocked. It was blocked by fear, by pomp, by bias, by prejudice, by all sorts of stuff, because I had built layers of blocks and resentment and fear. And eventually somebody, a coach, a mentor, they go at this alone, have fun. I needed to, and I know Sue did, and I know Brenda, you did. We all hired or got coaching in a way that helped. I had to get business. Well, of course, I needed to start spiritually, but then I was able to get business coaching and speaker coaching, mindset coaching. Oh my gosh, I didn't go to college, so I needed to get some coaching. But actually, if I went to college, I'd probably be more messed up. Just kidding. Anyway, so I learned this by somebody giving the right information that led to a revelation and helped move me in the direction to accept that this is going to be painful, this change, this discipline, because I have a mind and body that's going to keep saying, come back, come back, come back. You're more used to. My most practiced way of living was living a life of quiet desperation. though I didn't think so, nor did I want you to see that. So I am going to pretend it isn't happening. But man, when I was alone, I cried. I laid in bed and cried myself to sleep at times. I hid, I hated, and I became not good enough, not enough. And I started having self hatred, self pity, and waves of depression. Whew, what a difference.
Mm. Yeah, I hear you, Charlie. You know, my bottom was a very dark bottom, definitely depression. And you know, we talk about, you know, the pain of doing something different. So how do I unlearn and start doing something different? And I'm like you, I absolutely needed someone to coach me through it. I really had no clue how to start. And you know, I had grown up in a family where none of us knew, so I didn't have some elder that I could count on to be wise for me. I needed to go out and seek this out on my own. And luckily, I had people in my life that I saw and went, you know what, I want what they have. And so I started doing the work. And for me, this, you know, Brenda talked about the emotional stuff, you know, just becoming aware. I'm like you, I lived here. I lived in this, this space, this head space, and I didn't know how to be anywhere else. And when I started doing this work, the I needed somebody to kind of give it to me in oh gosh, like uh, micro form, you know, give me one teeny tiny little thing that I can do, because it was overwhelming to me to do something different, so very different. You know, my new path today, I have to. It's like learning a new language for me. You know, I when I have an emotion today. I'm sure there are some people out there in the world that immediately know what emotion is going on in their head and they or in their heart, and they know how to deal with it. I had no clue, you know, so I had to start with the very small steps of becoming aware of what my emotions were and becoming aware of what was really driving my emotions, and then becoming aware of how to deal with it when I had that emotion. And that felt overwhelming. And I needed somebody to really give me, okay, here's step one. You know, let's write down your emotions. Let's write down an experience where you've had these emotions. And so there was a lot of work in that. But I tell you, once I started doing this, it was like it built on itself. When I started writing things down and I started seeing what my emotions were, I, it just kind of flowed. It's like I had had a dam blocking the water for decades. And when it started coming out, it just really started flowing. And so you talked about, you know, the pain of doing this work, but there is something cathartic in that pain. There was something like when you are terrified of something and you run, there's something cathartic about that run, right? And this was the catharsis, was all of a sudden unblocking that dam and those emotions just coming out, and knowing that I had someone standing next to me who had a path. So they weren't just going to come out and drown me, because I think that's why I was afraid to deal with them for decades. I was afraid I was going to drown in those emotions. But I knew I had somebody who was, we've got a path. We know what to do with them. You're not on your own. Here, write them down. And then we're going to write about what to do with them.
Mhm.
So it was like, "Oh, thank you." I needed that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Sue. And you know, that's what coaches are for. It creates a safe space. You have a safe space with someone who's done the work already, which knows how to navigate that landscape, that can be your accountability buddy, that you can trust to start letting some of this stuff out a little bit at a time. This has been a great podcast, Charlie. You have any closing words for us?
Yes. How's the chat look? Anything come in?
I have no idea. I have not looked at it even once.
We got to work on that discipline.
We do. Good morning, Carrie, Kate, Cassidy, Molly, Nick. Good morning. Should I keep scrolling? We're so glad all you guys are here.
Hey, Nick.
I'm sorry that we didn't check that I didn't check the chat. That's my job. I'm going to blame and say we. Sorry I didn't check the chat, guys, but we're really
That's all
glad
right.
you're
It's
here.
on.
Have a wonderful Saturday.
Yeah.
Some great comments. Great comments.
Thanks. That's great. Sue, thank you for your contribution and getting your system working today. That's great.
Oh,
And the
thank
old,
you for your patience with it.
but can you tell me, would the old Sue would have closed the laptop, thrown it across the room, and said, "That's it. I can never do a podcast the rest of my life because it sucks."
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I would have blamed it on technology, would have been angry all day, and would have had a terrible day.
Then you would have saw all the cracks in the sidewalk.
Absolutely.
So wait, so Sue, you just didn't attach any meaning to it. You're just like, oh, let me try this. You just didn't attach meaning to it. You didn't generate all that fear. Just you
But what I
flowed.
saw, Brenda, was a coach and somebody who wanted to attach meeting. And the coach said, "Hold on, take a breath. It's a computer. It's the internet. They fail a lot.
All
How
the time.
can you? What can you do? We're going to start the podcast. And if you could come in, we're going to let you in. Everything's fine." And then the student who, Sue, you fell into the student mode in that moment, took a breath and realized I wanted to attach. I wanted to get angry, but a coach helped bring me back and centered me.
And you know what? You said, Charlie, you said just put your phone on sideways and get it somewhere, so it's stable. And that's what I did. So you guys were both my coaches this morning. Thank you.
I love how
Coaches need coaches too.
We do. We do.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Please go in the description, click the link, go to sign up for the Blindsided Community Forum newsletter. It's not a forum. And wait, I have a new thing at the end. Tell me if you like it.
Ooh.
Oh, it's not there.
Oh, I love that.
This is called share. This is what happens when we help others.
Yes.
Aw.
Yes.
Yay.
That's beautiful.
I enjoyed that, guys. What a great topic.
All right.